Hello and welcome to the Press Start Podcast, Press Start Australia's weekly video game discussion podcast. I'm your host, Ewan, joined today by my fellow gamers and co-hosts Kieran.
Hello.
James.
Hello.
Brody.
Hello.
And Shannon.
Hello.
On the show today, we're going to be discussing all the games announced at the Nintendo Direct last week and a ton of interesting Xbox tidbits that I was eager to chat to you all about. But first, I want to talk about Final Fantasy 16 some more because I am enjoying this game so much more than I thought I was going to. Shannon, have you been able to play some of it as well? I think we were like pretty even Stevens at one point, but I don't know how much more you played since then.
Yeah, not a lot since then. So like maybe, I don't know, like 4 hours in, 5 hours in, maybe. But yeah, enjoying it. The story is definitely at times just like what is happening here. At times I'm like really interested, and other times I couldn't care less.
I found you have to like really pay attention. Like I'm so guilty of like, I know this is going to sound terrible, but like I'm so guilty of just like touching my phone and checking my phone when the cutscene kicks in. And I really like have had to pull myself out of that and not do that, particularly with Final Fantasy 16. Like you miss 1 or 2 bits of dialogue. And you're in hot water. But yeah, I'm enjoying the story like so much more than I thought I was going to. The performances are great. The one thing that's letting me down, and what I wanted to pick your brains about, Kieran and James, is the combat. Because I don't know if it's maybe just me like not experimenting enough, but I've got the rings equipped. The one that lets me like just chain attacks together just by pressing square, and then the
I turn
other
that
one
off instantly.
And then the other one equipped that like gives you that big window of opportunity to dodge an attack. Like it gives you forever to press R1. So it's very rare I get hit or take any damage at all, and I've only died the once
with the invincibility cheat turned on.
And I don't know why, but this game's so easy.
I just don't. Did I like accidentally put like beginner level stuff on?
No, just take those rings off. Put something else on. Because, like, I feel like the evade is super generous anyway. I mean, I don't know if that's just because I play action games, but, like...
No, it is.
It feels really... I can't even imagine it being longer. Like, I don't understand. Like, you just sit there and dodge, and 20 minutes later, like...
But maybe I was just pressing through menus too quickly. But, like, does it just put those on by default? Because I just had them. Like, I was learning how to fight, and they were just on.
When you push like R3 or whatever it is, it automatically maps them.
Oh, does it? Okay. The only one that I used was the dog one because, like, I just couldn't. There's like two.
I was using that, but then him constantly barking out the commands was like frustrating. So I just took it off, and I just never ended up using the like dog at all.
Yeah, my girlfriend commented that she was like, "Look, I love Torgal, but do you have to be barking commands at him constantly?" And I'm like, "I have no control. I'm wearing a ring."
Originally, I thought they were like you'd have it on for 2 minutes and it'd expire. Like it doesn't really. They're clearly like huge helps for people that just want to go through the game easily, but it doesn't really
state
what
story mode is that
was the thing. I had to check the difficulty because I was like, did I accidentally switch it to the easier one? Because this is a cakewalk.
I guess it's nice like that there's options for people, like for sure, but I do think
they feel more accessibility than like gameplay mechanics though.
They definitely are, yeah.
And then I thought, like, well, maybe I get a better ring, like something that just like scales up my damage like 100 times or whatever. And then you're like, okay, no brainer, I'm going to switch over. And now that I've kind of got a feel for the combat, I don't need to rely on the automated stuff. But like
that's better accessories.
Yeah, you start getting accessories that, and some of the later ones actually like augment the different abilities you have. So it'd be like with this ability, you get like this bonus. So you'll pretty quickly want to like start.
Like there might be one that makes your Phoenix Rising or whatever, like cool down quicker or something like that.
Yeah, okay.
But they're all like but you have to really just like commit to a build, and I just never bothered with that because like I feel like once again I didn't feel like it was ever too difficult in that way. But yeah, like I think you would probably. I mean, it is still quite simple, but I think you would still enjoy it more if you just took those rings off.
Yeah, because I'm like the combat is really just kind of connecting me between the next story beats, which like is definitely holding my enjoyment in the game, but I feel like I'd be getting more out of it if the combat was a little bit more engaging. But I was like, have I just made it too easy for myself with these rings on? Like,
I think you have.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I'll experiment with more of those then. Nice to know they're there, I suppose, if I get stuck in a boss fight in future. Excellent. Well, that's my catch up this week on my Final Fantasy 16 adventure, I'm sure I'll have
we were
another
all wondering.
That problem solved.
I like that you wait till we're like live and recording to like get tips for your game.
Yeah. Look, I was almost going to discuss this before the show, but I thought, it'd be a fun way to start. Anyhow, speaking of starting, we should get into the juicier topics of the day because it does get more exciting than that, I promise. And let's start by talking about the Nintendo Direct, which I think was last week. Was it Friday morning, Thursday morning? It was pretty soon after we published the episode, I think. But a little... What? Kieran's frowning at me. Am I said something wrong?
I don't know. No.
It was a little while ago, but still I want to wind back the clock and talk about it because I thought there were some interesting announcements. Maybe we start with Super Mario Bros. Wonder, a new 2D Mario game with Wonder Flower pickups that look trippy AF. They really made it seem even more drug-related than Mario usually is. It's got 4-player co-op and it's out October 20th, really contributing to what is already a stacked year. James, I'm going to come to you first on this one. It feels like a lifetime ago since we hopped on to play Super Mario 3D World together on the Switch. I think that might have been early days of the pandemic. We all must have been really desperate for things to do. Do you reckon we might give this one a shot, though? Will we bring it back, or will we need another lockdown, perhaps?
Doesn't have online, Ewan. So
does it not?
Unless we're going to meet up in a house somewhere, it's not happening.
That's disappointing.
Yeah. I don't know what it is about 2D Mario and Nintendo not doing online. Is there a 2D platformer on the Switch that has online? Like, I don't know if there's some reason for it. Like, but yeah, we're not Ewan. I mean, yes, Ewan. I'm sorry. To disappoint. There'll be no wonder between us.
It wouldn't be the best experience. And I think 3D World did allow, like, it was a bit slower. But it was fine from my memory.
Yeah, like, I don't know why they didn't do it with, like, new Super Mario Bros. U, and then obviously this one. I feel like with this one, like, I could probably give it a pass because it looks like there's a lot of crazy shit, like, going on screen. And with platformers, like, you have to have precision, otherwise it's shit. And I feel like you just can't introduce... It's kind of like VR in a way that, like, the frame rates have to be perfect or you'll get sick. Like, it has to be right. Like, I don't know if that's why.
It's exactly like that.
No, it is.
There's like no room. Online lags.
Oh my god. Okay. Well, then let's just have a surface level discussion about it. If that's what everyone wants. Yeah, the colors are good, and I thought it was funny, and it's like Mario does drugs. Is that what we want? Is that the discussion that we want? Fuck, man. Anyway,
it's so good.
Put your mug down.
I need to make a montage at some point of all the times things that got heated on the podcast. What about yourself, Brody?
Me.
James, I'm here for your
supercar.
James, I'm here for your in-depth conversation and take. I think that sounds like a rational explanation. The fact that maybe some latency creeps in and thwarts a 2D platform being as tight as it needs to be.
Yeah, I think so too, which is why I said it. So
just like VR.
No, oh my god. Okay. Anyway, do we want to move on?
Brody, what did you make of Super Mario Bros. Wonder? Does this look like something you might give a shot?
Look, I've always tended to prefer the 2D Marios to the 3D ones. Like, it's definitely more my speed. I do like platformers like that. Yeah. But that said, it takes a lot to get me to pick up the Switch these days. Like, I've played maybe half hour of Tears of the Kingdom, and that'll do me for 2023, I think. So, yeah, I think it releasing in October when it is, it's probably unfortunate for it in terms of me playing it, but I'm sure it'll still do very well because obviously Nintendo itself doesn't necessarily have boatloads going on in October. But yeah, I think it's probably a bit too busy for me to put the time aside for Wonder. Although Elephant Mario, he's a bit of a vibe. Clearly.
Well, yes, and I was like, look, this all looks like a lot of fun. I don't know if I'm really gonna sacrifice the time I would need to in October to play it, much in the same boat as you. But then I saw Elephant Mario, and I was like, but maybe. I was a bit like that meme where she's like kind of shaking her head and then maybe.
Look, I'll just tune into the Rule 34 a week after the fact and see what goes on.
It took all
There's
7 minutes, not 7 days.
Is there? We'll put that in the link below.
Yeah, you must have missed that conversation in the group chat the other day. Well, speaking of Nintendo releasing a lot later this year, I did think it was odd that so soon after that October 20th release date, they have Super Mario RPG slated to come out November 17th. Kieran, I seem to recall you being particularly excited for this one. Have you got a bit of a history with Super Mario RPG?
Yeah, I mean, I played it, I think, back when it released as like a virtual console game, because it never came out here for the Super Nintendo. They re-released it on the virtual console like years and years ago. And I remember really liking it as like I guess like a precursor to a lot of the stuff they did with the Paper Mario series, also as like a Square Enix RPG. So I don't know. I think I was more surprised to see this than overly excited to replay it, because it does look like it's kind of just the same game reskinned.
Yeah,
in a lot of ways. And I'm not like entirely sure how well that's going to hold up in some instances, but it's cool they're doing it. I know a lot of people are very happy about it. So
yeah. James, is Super Mario RPG something you've ever played before?
Yeah, I always played it. I think I got about halfway through it every time, like as a kid, because I used to play it on an emulator because I was young and it didn't come out in Australia, so that's all I could do. But yeah, no. Well, if they released it here, I would have bought it.
Doug's coming for you.
Always. What are we talking about? Yes, Mario RPG. Yeah, it's good. I am excited to play it properly. There's some really cool moments like that in the 2D sprite kind of look that I'm interested to see how they translate all of that to like the art style they're using for this, which I think looks great as well. Like I was really, really surprised it looks that good. Yeah, I do wonder how it will flow because like obviously this is almost like the precursor to Paper Mario, and that game alone I feel like plays quite slow now. So like to have, I don't know how the battle system will flow. Being such a basic turn-based kind of vibe, which I've got no problem with, but obviously like the wider audience might. But yeah, like I think it'll be good. It's a cool little like almost like a, I don't know, there's like a lot of characters in that have never really been revisited by Nintendo later and stuff, which I think is cool. It's definitely worth a look if you're a Mario fan. I think it's a weird piece of history where like Square Enix and Nintendo work together to make something.
Yeah. Yeah, and to your point, it seems like a lot of people were surprised, kind of given that it was a partnership back in the day, that it's kind of managed to clear the legal situation that inevitably comes with that territory. Shannon, speaking of being a Mario fan, you are, of course, a big Mario fan yourself. Couple of new Mario games on the way. Which of these two are you more excited for if you could pick one?
I don't think I've played Super Mario RPG, so I'm keen to like check that out because it does seem quite different, but definitely Wonder is my cup of tea. Like I don't think there hasn't been a Mario platformer that I've played through multiple times and tried to get like 100% on all of them. So they are like the one game that I will play through every time. But yeah, both of them I'm really keen on, and it's exciting that they're within like 6 months, both of them. We don't have to wait too long.
Yeah, certainly very Mario themed end of the year. What about Princess Peach? She's also getting a game of her own. It's a 2D platformer by the looks of things as well. Although we haven't got a huge amount of information about it, other than it's coming next year and seems to have like a theatrical sort of theme to it as well. Like there was kind of references of like a stage play and curtains dropping and stuff like that. All the theater things. Is a Princess Peach game one you would be excited for next year as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think Super Princess Peach, it was a DS game, I think, original DS, wasn't it? Yeah, that was like one of my favorite platforming games from Nintendo. So this looks quite different, like stylistically, but I think it allows them to do some different stuff with Peach. But it still feels like a Mario World type game. So I'm keen for it. I'm glad that they used to do a lot more with like Wario, and obviously they've got Luigi's Mansion, but like there's just so many other characters in the Mario world that are interesting and deserve their own games in this way. So I'm glad to see they're going back to that.
Yeah, they kind of made a point of like, hey, we've got Mario game there, we've got Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon getting remastered, we've got a Princess Peach game on the go. Like, it was just good to see them giving their big characters, particularly off the back of the Mario film coming out earlier this year, I suppose, getting some love. And I'm sure as a consequence of that, these games will sell well. And presuming like what's kind of like the last push for the Switch, like I imagine it's probably I mean, I feel like we've been saying this for the last 3 years, but presumably there's not much longer left in this cycle for the Switch, and we start to see something new next. But maybe that's a conversation for another day. Look, we also did have Detective Pikachu getting a sequel. We got Pikmin 4 with some new gameplay, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet expansion packs detailed, Vampire Survivors coming to the Switch, as well as the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1 also being confirmed for it. So there was a fair few announcements. Brady, is there anything else you wanted to touch on that stood out to you, or how did you rate the Direct kind of more broadly?
Look, yeah, I think it was pretty solid. Like in a sort of period where we've had a handful of showcases, it certainly wasn't the worst one. I think there's plenty for I guess Nintendo fans to be excited for. It gave us an idea of what they're going to be doing with the rest of the year, which is always good. Obviously, not boatloads that speak to me personally, but yeah, I mean, things like Vampire Survivors come to Switch is cool. Like the more platforms that game is on, the better.
Local co-op as well. Really
Oddly,
cool.
it's still not on PlayStation, is it?
Really?
I don't think so.
Yeah, which is so weird. Yeah, and obviously Metal Gear Solid coming to Switch is cool. Opens up a 110, 120 million people that can play that now on the go, which is cool. So yeah, look, I think it was alright. I'd give it a solid B minus.
B minus.
Yeah.
Would you say it was worth waiting up for, Kieran? It was quite late at night for us here on the East Coast.
I think so. Like Brody said, it's definitely one of the better showcases we've had in recent weeks. And there were some cool little surprises in there as well. Like I think it's called like Penny's Big Breakaway, the game from the Sonic Mania team. That looked like the 3D Sonic game that everyone's wanted for decades and haven't got yet. So yeah, there's some cool stuff.
As if you would do Frontiers dirty like that. Why you go say that? And yourself, James? Was it, as a Nintendo fan, everything you could expect to see this time of year?
Yeah, like I think it was really good. Like I
wanted Metroid.
Yeah.
No, I didn't want
I almost
Metroid.
forget that exists at this point.
You don't understand. Like we're used to not getting games or announcements. So, like,
where are the Zelda HD remakes that have been apparently finished for 8 years?
I don't think they existed personally.
No.
But
not again.
They'll drop them out of nowhere, like everybody wants to Switch.
Yeah, it'll be like January.
No Zelda was like surprising, but overall, like I genuinely think it was quite good. It was a lot of stuff I didn't really know I needed. Like, yeah, I think it was really solid. Like the big one for me, and it's like kind of something that I feel like not a lot of people will care about, but like the Star Ocean 2 remake was like, it's one of my favorite RPGs like ever. One of my first ever action-based RPGs as well that I played back on the PS1. So seeing that get like, it's not called HD 2D, but whatever they're calling that, like just getting it like a really schmick new update beyond just an up-res is really, really nice. And yeah, like the 2D Mario, I've never really cared. I never get excited for 2D Mario, but like it comes out and I play it and I'm like, this is actually really tight. But like this one actually looks different. Like the art style in it is so expressive. And I feel like it's such a jump forward from kind of the new... And I think this is why I never got excited, because New Super Mario Bros. As a series to me is quite not stale almost. Like, I don't know, like it's very sterile. Very probably a better word. Like, it's just like there and it exists. Like, whereas this is like, it is almost like to the point where it all looks like sprites almost. Like it's so expressive and it feels like a throwback almost to what Mario used to be, which I'm kind of excited for. I never thought I would be.
And what I loved about Mario Odyssey was just the kind of surprises and quirkiness of it, I guess, like by nature of like there being kind of Cappy in there as a mechanic, but it looks like Wonder's going to have that same kind of just goofy, fun, surprising element to it, which is where I think Mario really shines and where it's connected with me.
I will say, like, I'm still surprised Nintendo's never done anything more with Odyssey. Like, I feel like that game is just like ripe for like some kind of DLC beyond that shitty Luigi balloon one they did a few years ago. Yeah. There's just so much potential there with all the stuff that's in that game. Like, there's so much in that game mechanically that they could reskin, reuse, properly make a cool DLC pack with, but they haven't. I find that so odd. Yeah. But yeah, otherwise, Wonder it's got me excited for 2D Mario again, which is something I never really thought would happen. So like, that's a plus for sure.
Yeah. I take it you would put a fair amount of stock into the speculation that we're going to see the Metal Gear Solid collection expanded upon in future. I mean, obviously, Volume 1 sort of being there, you would assume that there's going to be more volumes in the future, but some of the rumors kind of emerging just this week seems maybe more imminent than I would have thought.
Yeah, I don't know logistically how that works. If so like let's just say Volume 2. I think Volume 2 that would be a big deal because it would be the first time MGS4 would be not on PS3. Like it's only on PS3 right now. That's the only way you can play it.
Yeah.
Even emulation is a bit spotty for everyone. But then I don't know how the Switch would run that. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't know if they're gonna. Obviously, the Master Collection is coming to Xbox, PlayStation, PC, and Switch.
Yeah.
Like those games I can see are all on Switch, but then MGS4 I don't really know how that works. If that's gonna work. But yes, I think it's great. I think Konami has been sitting on all these IPs for so long and not letting having a good way for people to experience them. So I really commend them for that. And it's not just chuck shit 3 ROMs onto a cartridge and that's it. Like there's the art books and the digital, there's a lot of stuff in there.
The soundtrack, really should you want to walk around with your Switch and just listen to the soundtrack.
You can play and immerse yourself in all of that Metal Gear stuff that you've probably missed out on if you haven't been able to get it, in the last.
And also, they're not just drip feeding people. You're getting 3.
That's a chunky. That's a good portion. It's probably the 3 best ones, to be honest. But
and this is obviously all on top of the remake of 3 as well. I'm curious about how that kind of plays out in future. If the remake is just kind of an oddity and that the collection is kind of really the grand plan, or if they will kind of remake others. I don't know.
MGS3, yeah. It'd be weird if they remade MGS1 after 3, though. Because 3, and 1 is so much simpler than 3.
Yeah.
So that would feel like a step back. I don't know. I think 3 works as a remake because it's the beginning of this whole story, I think that's why. But we'll see.
Cool. All right. Well, let's tackle some of this Xbox news, bounce from one manufacturer to another. Heaps coming out of the court proceedings with Xbox challenging the FTC's block of the Activision Blizzard acquisition. I want to first start by addressing Xbox coming out and claiming that they'd lost the console wars. This was probably the kind of thing that got the most attention out of everything that came out of these court proceedings. But Brody, I might come to you first. Does Xbox losing the console wars, not even losing the console wars, lost the console wars was the language that was used. Is that a fair summary of the situation Xbox find themselves in?
Oh, look, it's not the first time they've claimed to have lost the console wars, and it probably won't be the last. But look, in this situation, I think it probably does surmise the situation because I don't think hardware at this stage is what they care about. They're not pushing hardware and they're not pushing software as much. They're clearly driving at Game Pass. That's their strategy. That's all their strategy is. So, look, I don't think them losing the console war means that they're, on death's door or anything like that. But it's clearly probably just a sign that their strategy has definitely changed and hardware's not front and center like it used to be.
Yeah. I'd sort of I don't know how to feel about this because
it's explosive language for sure.
Yeah.
We've lost the console wars.
Yeah, because definitely although the numbers were redacted, they were kind of making the contention that we don't have as much market share as Nintendo and PlayStation, especially currently, which I don't think anyone can really argue with. It's pretty plain. But then, can we really just allow or set the precedent that someone with the backing that Xbox has, because obviously they're a subsidiary of Microsoft who are raking billions, if not trillions of dollars, to just kind of steamroll the industry by making whatever acquisition they feel they want to make? I'm not saying that's what Xbox are currently doing, but I suppose that's the precedent they have to be careful of setting by allowing mergers like this to happen.
Well, that's why they're in court, Yui. That's why they're in court.
And I think that it sums it up. That's why they're doing that, right? Because they really, they've never really had a big share compared to PlayStation and Nintendo, apart from when the 360 came at a lower price point and PS3 was having all kinds of issues. But PlayStation sort of won that back over time. So this is their only play left. And I think they're being upfront about that, really.
Yeah. James Shannon's mentioned the 360 sort of era there. do you feel that Xbox has always been the underdog throughout their entire lifetime since they first introduced the console back in 2001?
No, I've never felt that for the first two. Well, I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention during Xbox, like the first Xbox.
Sure.
To me, the GameCube was like the winner, even though obviously I was very young and jaded and I didn't really know much about anything. Not like now where I know everything. But 360, like to me, 360 was the default. Like everyone got a game on 360. Like that was the thing. Like that was, and to me, that was their like golden era. I want to say, like I feel like they were always winning. They're always on top, you know. And I think, like, I know this isn't necessarily for everybody, but I think it spoke volumes when the COD deal for 360 that was on 360, you know, they got the map packs first, all that kind of stuff that kind of shifted over to PlayStation. And obviously, I think from Xbox One onwards, like 100%, they've like lost if we're going to like put it into those terms. Like PS4 is the default now, and now PS5 is too. And it goes back to what Phil said months ago when he said it was the worst generation to lose, because of the way backwards compatibility works and all that kind of stuff. I do think that them being in last place has led to them being a bit more creative with what they've done, like Game Pass and their like, you know, very extensive like backwards compatibility stuff, which is good. But overall, I think he's right. Like but then like I think that they're also, that's why they've pivoted to a different race. Like what they were doing wasn't working for them, so like do something else. And I think that is working for them now, right? Like I don't know enough to know if it is. Like I think physically units sold maybe less, but like all those people who might have bought an Xbox are probably subscribing on a TV or a phone or something. You know, like I don't know quite. Like they're just so different now to compare.
Yeah. It's a tricky one. Like I'm an advocate for competition. I think like the challenger sort of status that Xbox has been in for so long has enabled some really progressive kind of things in the industry, like Game Pass you're pointing to, obviously, like that is a big shakeup in the industry and like a really strong value proposition for gamers. And you just don't get that kind of offering without the level of competition we have. And to be frank, like I don't think we necessarily lose the competition we have currently if Activision Blizzard do merge with Xbox. Like personally, for me, that wouldn't be a huge hit. But yeah, do we want to go down this road of allowing these acquisitions to continue, and like where do we draw the line? Like where do we say stop? And maybe the FTC and various other kind of regulatory bodies around the world are right in kind of stepping in and stopping this merger happen. To dial into it a little bit more though, like speaking to the commitment of Call of Duty, which is obviously like a big tentpole franchise that's had a lot of attention throughout all of these legal proceedings, Xbox have committed once again to like a 10-year kind of multi-platform release for the game to carry on. But in the process of committing to that, they kind of let slip that they anticipate 2028 will be when next generation consoles arrive. 2028. So that's what, 5 years from now? Kieran, how does that sit with you? Does that feel about right?
I mean, from a timeline perspective, like based on previous generations, I think the last one was like 7 years and the one before that was 8. So like that makes sense. I'm just like, I feel like I'm just surprised that console generations they still think it's going to be a thing. Like, I feel like with every new generation, we get less innovation every time, or less, massive changes that warrant an actual jump in platform and software and firmware and all that kind of stuff. Like the mid-gen refreshes, I feel like should be just like the way it continues going forward from this point on. Especially with like when you look at like PS3 to PS4 and PS5, like there are so many like shakeups in how they operate and what they're using that means that we lose access to games like Metal Gear Solid 4, for example. Like I feel like that stuff needs to end. So I don't know. I'm just kind of I'm kind of shocked that they assume that there's going to be another one to begin with, but maybe they know stuff we don't. I mean, they probably do.
What's your feeling in that, Brody? I see where Kieran's coming from, but I sort of like, where do we just have PS5 Pros and Pro X's and Pro Pluses for infinity here on out, or does a day eventually come around where we get a PlayStation 6 and a Xbox Series Y?
Yeah.
Just go through the rest of the alphabet? I don't know.
It is interesting. Like, I mean, I think what Kieran says is right, and I think technology and this hardware is becoming so like incrementally different. Like it's just like they're more like computers in how like and like the Xbox Series X is basically a computer. So I mean, if they gave you the provisions to crack that open and put a different GPU in it or something like that, then that might be the route they go in future. But then they can't sell you a $800 box, which is incrementally different. So I think it's going to continue as it is. Like whether we get a mid-gen refresh or not, I won't be surprised if there's more consoles in 5 years. I think that just feels close at the moment because I just don't feel like this gen has really hit its stride yet. Like it feels like it's been kind of a nothing generation so far, but I haven't really stopped to consider what the PS4 generation was like for the first 3 years either. So, and COVID definitely hasn't helped, but I'm sure in 2026 or 2027 when we're gearing up for these new consoles, we'll look back and think, what a hell of a time we had in that gen, hey? All those games that Xbox put out, all those games that Sony put out. Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. Especially if we've got another 5 years of the console still. That feels kind of long, but maybe my sense of time has just been totally twisted by the pandemic.
I'll be like almost 40. Like that's fucked up.
yeah.
Bro, I'm gonna hate thinking about
it is
that.
interesting. Well, I remember when the PS5 came out, like people kind of taking the piss out of me, like, why are you making such a big deal out of this? I'm like, it is a big deal. Like, this will happen.
Like this has happened 3 times in my lifetime.
7 times in my lifetime. Like, yeah, like it doesn't happen often. It's a rarefied thing.
I was born when the PS2 came out.
Yeah, and I don't remember that console launch. I remember the PS3 coming out. I remember the 4 and the 5. So yes, I guess 3. But like, yeah, wild. They are always fun. The Call of Duty angle to this story too, though, like I suppose the implication of it being around for another 10 years, it would see out this generation and then kind of well into the next generation. Can you see Xbox holding firm to that? Do you believe them when they say they'd commit to it for 10 years?
They have to. Otherwise, like any goodwill they've earned or, any... I guess, I don't know, anything they've like sort of gained throughout this proceeding, and it hasn't been much, like it'd all be absolutely trashed if they went back on this in any way, shape or form. So I think regardless of whether PlayStation sign a contract agreeing to it, because they haven't come forth and done that yet, I think, it also doesn't make any financial sense for them to take it off PlayStation. Like what they lose is not going to be what they gain in Game Pass subscribers. So it doesn't make sense for them to get rid of it.
Yeah, and I suppose in the case of Minecraft, they've stood by their commitments to that as well. All right, well, to keep with the Xbox stuff, but speak on a different game. Another interesting tidbit out of all of this is we had confirmation that Machine Games' Indiana Jones will be an exclusive to Xbox and PC, and will be available day one on Game Pass. Shannon, is this at all surprising to you?
I don't think so. I think just on this point and the Call of Duty point, like it's so hard to understand like Xbox's or Microsoft's, I guess, business case for any of this really, because even like Game Pass, like I doubt they're making money at this point on Game Pass. But then a company like Microsoft, like they're one of very few, like Apple being another. And a few others that can just make these decisions without thinking about money because they're not going out of business anytime soon, no matter what they do, right? But in Indiana Jones, like that definitely strikes me as something that would have to be exclusive because they need those type of single player games. Like they're the games that they're missing when you look at sort of PlayStation and Xbox's lineup side by side. So definitely, this is one that I knew would be exclusive.
I think it's a little surprising. I think if anyone, it would have been like Disney. They would have pushed for like a multi-plat sort of thing.
Yeah.
And considering, I don't know. So I'm a little surprised. I would have thought this one could have stayed multi-plat out of all of them. But at the end of the day, it's probably about right.
But that was my only like hang up.
No, but that's already.
But
that was
Sony,
before, wasn't it?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, Disney generally have such tight stipulations around these things. I'd have thought, particularly if there's any possibility that it promotes a movie, like obviously this isn't coming out alongside the latest Indiana Jones release, but like if Disney had vested interest in it more broadly, I can totally see them encouraging it to be multi-platform. But maybe they don't, and they've kind of, Xbox have made sure that all the requirements of the deal are otherwise satisfied. But like given the position Xbox are in, I don't think it surprises me at all that any and every game that they can make exclusive, they will make exclusive. They may well have, not to get hyperbolic about what this game tends to be, but like imagine if this was their answer to like the Uncharted franchise or something. Like they would want that to be the exclusive in their staple.
I just don't, like Indiana Jones as a brand, like, like, I
it's not the same.
Like I'm not even saying that. Like it's like like as an example, LucasArts Star Wars. Like look at that. But does anyone like it who's like not 40 something? Like I don't know. Like it just seems
I'm
like
not 40 and I like
brand.
it, but
yeah,
I grew up watching those movies.
I feel like Tomb Raider and Uncharted provide the Indiana Jones experience. Right. And like, I don't see this being, as an example, like a Harrison Ford led game, which to me is like, he's like, I feel like he's so over life already. And like, to then ask him to go on.
And he's 80.
He's like,
and to like ask him to go and be Indy in a game. Like, I don't see, I feel like he's such a big part of Indiana Jones. Like, for him not to even be in the game then also is quite like what's the point almost? But
he's Indiana Jones. Quite literally.
I'm watching Harrison Ford do all the press interviews at the moment for the film, and I'm like, how much did they pay you to speak positively about this film? Like, and he's talking like all excitedly about like how they've used his face from like the old films and the new one. I'm like, you can't like this. Like,
he's only excited about it because he doesn't have to be in them anymore. Like that's. He knows
this is where it gets.
He's like, my blood debt is
confusing because from a business point of view, like it would make more sense. You would, I think, again, I don't know this for sure, but I think they would make more money if they had this on Game Pass. Then you could also buy it on PS5. Like they're going to lose out on 60 or 70 million people that can buy this for $100. So I don't really understand.
I think that's like saying like why would Netflix not just put Stranger Things on HBO and binge and all of that? Because they're missing out on all those subscribers. Like,
and I think that's exactly the point. Like the only way Game Pass works long term is if it becomes ubiquitous, and like that's what their strategy is. Like we want everyone on Game Pass because it like through the kind of economies of it all, that's like how it becomes profitable. But like
I don't think Game Pass is getting to like Disney Plus and Netflix numbers. Like I don't think it's anywhere near that, and I can't honestly ever see it. I think that's what the aspiration is.
It's a long play, but you hemorrhage money to get there and hope that no reasonable competition appears in the meantime. And that's what, like, I don't think Netflix is going to be around much longer, truthfully, because like so much competition has risen to meet them, and Netflix is not profitable.
Disney is risen above them.
Yeah. Like there's so many people doing what they do now.
But then you get to the point
that slice of that pie.
Like Disney just floods their services with literal shit. Like, and like there's so many
on the Bristol stool chart.
Type 7 wet diarrhea.
If you want to understand our in-jokes, we need to put a Patreon up for the pre-show.
Great.
Just Google the Bristol stool chart.
But you know what? I like I don't know. Like I don't feel like if we get to that point, then what's the point? You know, like all of these Marvel TV shows, like Secret Invasion has just come out, and like everyone's like farting on it.
I mean,
you know,
it's the power of IP.
Xbox's only play.
Yeah,
I think
it's the power of IP, and like Disney like have massive IP to it, and like that's what Xbox is trying to build now, albeit unsuccessfully. But like they need as many wins on the board they can get. They need them to be exclusive, push people towards their platforms. Like that's the only way this works, I think. And
I just don't know if Indiana Jones is the game to do that. Like, at the end
James,
of the day,
let me put this to you. Maybe Elder Scrolls 6 is the way to do it. Another one that's kind of in the wheelhouse, I guess, of exclusivity rumors and how it's all going to shake out. Phil Spencer said it was probably 5+ years away. But Brody, surely this is another exclusive when it comes out 5 years from now.
I should think so.
More.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's who's to say? Again, to Shannon's point, they're leaving the money on the table as far as PlayStation goes. But at the end of the day, I don't think they want PlayStation to have any share of that sort of market. So I think they'll probably keep it on Game Pass. Who knows? They might even be releasing physical games by that point. They might just be like, no, everything's on Game Pass. Goodbye. Because 5 years, shit, we'll be in a new gen by then.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's a
launch title for the Xbox Series XXX.
That'd be great if they went like really like mid 2000s gamer tag with it and just put like the XXX_Xbox.
Just on that note, and you don't have it in the notes here, Ewan, but something that probably the most interesting thing that I've taken from all this was the Pete Hines email that he sent to his Bethesda colleagues and then to Phil Spencer about when the COD was announced to be multi-platform for 10 years, the guarantee. Like, I think Pete Hines was pretty annoyed that they weren't given that heads up at all and were quite taken aback that they were forced into exclusivity when Call of Duty wasn't. Those emails came out today, and I thought that was interesting. Like, not in the sense that I think it makes sense to Bethesda. Like, you can understand why there's differences there, but I think I can also understand why Pete Hines was really annoyed that they weren't given any kind of heads up about that. And to me, that didn't signal troubles, but again, I was just surprised that hadn't been communicated to Bethesda's head of marketing and their leads of studios that was happening for other studios differently.
Yeah, you've got to be prepped for those inevitable questions.
It is spicy. Yeah, which is what he said.
Yeah. I really feel for Bethesda and all of this because, like, I feel they continue to be a really interesting group of developers, I suppose, if I put it that way. That are just like really passionate about what they do and relish doing things differently. And I think the relieved as everyone is that Xbox have given them a long enough leash to continue doing that. But at the same time, like, first and foremost, they want people to play their games and they want people to enjoy their games. And I'm not saying that Xbox fans aren't doing that, but just by, being a bigger fish in a smaller pond, I suppose, like, they're just not perhaps reaching the same players as they once were or can reach
I think
the
it's
same
too early
players
to
as they
say
once
that.
were. Yeah,
nothing's come out. Like,
I feel
like Hi-Fi Rush was never going to be. I would argue more people played Hi-Fi Rush than if, say, it released on all three platforms on digital.
And Redfall had its own troubles.
Obviously Redfall, like, that was doomed from the beginning. Like, that had nothing to do with Xbox. I would argue that was already fucked because of like mismanagement from ZeniMax
and Deathloop and Ghostwire.
I think that obviously Starfield.
I think
Starfield is the big one. Like, I think that, and I think that how that does will obviously influence how they do Elder Scrolls. But I feel like anecdotally speaking, like, I feel like Starfield is, a lot of people are picking up consoles or PC. I don't know if people are picking up PCs, but I don't know. I feel like Starfield is the beginning of something for them. And that's a brand that has no, like, the brand is the development studio. It's not a new brand, like it's but
I'm surprised they haven't experimented with timed exclusivity. Like, keep it in Game Pass for a year or something, like,
and then
drop Starfield.
That could be a thing.
Yeah,
I think.
I feel like that would be a big hit, and that would probably do well for them strategically. Like, keep it on
that
for a year and then release it elsewhere.
It was interesting that, like, Deathloop and Ghostwire were both exclusive, and then, like, this came out this week that Starfield was also going to be. So Microsoft was just like, "Nah, fuck yous," and just bought Bethesda. Like, so I don't know if that was, like, I don't know, like, is that more? What's the word? Is that more, like, better for them if they were to be buying these games piecemeal rather than just buying the whole publisher? Like, I
think it is because it's their decision, and now it's not their decision, and that's the part of being bought out and acquired. But, like, it's different. Like, when you're making the choice game by game, and they're never going to have that decision ever again internally at Bethesda. But, like, they got bought out and took the money, or someone did.
And that's the thing. Like, I think we're gonna just constantly have to remind people throughout all of this as this plays out that, like, this is still a business at the end of the day, and people are in it to make money, and it's the reason why, maybe Redfall and Indiana Jones were initially planned for PlayStation releases as well, and now aren't. Like, that's just the fact of the business. And, like, the only way it survives and, game developers get paid to do what they do and continue to make great games at the scale and the, just like the mass of games that we have nowadays, the only way that continues into the future is if people continue to make money doing so. So it has to happen.
But this theoretically should be less pressure for these teams. Like, it should be less pressure based on Microsoft, again, not running out of money anytime soon.
Also, it's just physically,
you don't have those same goals.
Physically not having to develop more than one SKU is also helpful.
Yeah. I'm just very thankful that I've got a PC and a PlayStation. It means I don't miss out. Like, I've managed to get away without having an Xbox. But potentially, like, the day there's a day when you have a Samsung TV and the Xbox app is on there and you can still play every Xbox game. Like, as long as they kind of commit to the idea of making all the games super accessible, I think Game Pass remains a pretty attractive prospect. Anyhow, that was an awful lot of Xbox chat. Next week, I'm eager to mark the fact that we will have officially crossed the halfway line of the year by asking you all about your favorite game of the year so far. So consider this your advance warning to start thinking about what your list of favorite games of the year are so far. We're going to have that conversation next week.
I can take a few guesses. Looking around.
I feel like I'm at school.
This is just coming off the last episode where I went around the circle with you all.
Kieran, we have a private group chat. We can organize this in.
Yeah, like a little study session. In preparation for that, I thought we could tease the conversation that I'm sure will take place by asking in our rapid fire question of the day, what is your biggest disappointment of the year so far? What game has let you down the most so far this year? I'm going to jump.
That's almost harder.
I'm going to go right in off the bat and say Forspoken. I had such high hopes for that game, and it just did not hit the way I wanted it to. Brody, do you have a disappointment from the year so far?
Redfall feels like the easy answer, so I'm going to say Atomic Heart.
Oh, yeah, that one hurt too. Why did that fridge have to be so creepy?
So sexy. I mean, what?
Shannon, biggest disappointment so far?
God, I don't know. I really do not have anything. Come to me next.
Kieran?
Well, I mean, it's kind of fresh still, but Park Beyond, which I haven't really spoken about before, but that only came out, I think, last week. And I was super keen for it, and it's broken as fuck. Like, it doesn't work. Like, it's just not, like, I can't progress in the campaign at all. So
are the bones there though for it to be good?
The bones are there. That's what makes it a disappointment rather than just a bad game. It's like,
come back in 6 months. I'm sure it'll be a lot better.
Hopefully.
Game of the year.
Park Beyond, remind me, this is like the theme park builder simulator, yeah?
Yeah, from the people that made the Tropico games. It's like it's super, it's meant to be like super flexible and let you make all kinds of crazy stuff, but like it just kind of falls apart constantly, which is
Fingers crossed that all comes together then. James?
Resi 4.
You look like you're deep in thought.
I'm scrolling and looking and indexing.
He's going to say Final Fantasy.
If you haven't been disappointed, that's totally a valid answer too.
I have two. Do you know what? I do have, let me tab over back here. Yep, here I am. I probably have two. I'm going to let it marinate for a bit. So I'm not going to say my second one, but my first one is probably Jedi Survivor.
Get out. Are you serious? We're going to fight next week, James. I swear to God.
Okay, I take it back. Final Fantasy 16.
Damn it, I was with you.
Kieran's going to come after you then.
Hey, look, I finished Final Fantasy 16. I'm fucking struggling to find the motivation to finish Jedi Survivor. So something's there.
You are a madman, James.
I'm not a madman. I am just telling you how I feel, and that's valid. And we're going to move on.
It's rapid fire. So
right now.
You have to justify
Shannon.
Yeah, it is a rapid fire. But I don't know. I think I'm gonna make me stop talking, or I'll keep going.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I was trying to throw to Shannon.
It's not. I don't have a game that I played that I haven't loved, just because I purely really only played what I wanted to this year. Yeah. But I think two disappointments in like the industry, like I think The Last of Us Part 1's PC port was just really woeful, and that was actually one I was really wanting to play on PC, like fully spec'd, and it's still
so surprising too, as well. I suppose that one.
Yeah, like especially like coming off the HBO show and stuff, and like it just felt odd to me. And I think Crash Team Rumble, again, I haven't played much since the beta, but I just think like the highs that we had from Crash to that, like nobody even knows it's out, is just sad to see and a disappointment for me.
Yeah,
personally.
we got the codes come through, right? And then I was like, oh yeah, cool. I'll like jump in and give this a bit of a go. I had no idea that game was out. Like I thought we were a week or two early on those codes. I was like, oh damn.
I've been playing so much of it.
Sorry?
I've been playing heaps of Crash.
Oh, are you enjoying it?
Yeah.
Cool. I'm glad. I need to give it more of a go, but I'm glad we do someone here rooting for it.
I did think of a game, AFL 23 actually is my easy answer. I take everything back. That is like gotten worse even from the decent point it was at. So definitely that.
It's gotten worse?
It has. It was like okay, and then it like took a dive again after a patch.
That's a shame.
And hasn't returned.
No.
Wait, what about Lord of the Rings Gollum?
God, that's
Was that disappointing though, or just like predictably bad?
Half price. Months later.
Very true.
Still too much.
Well, you know what's never disappointing? What the Wiki. The
will
Press
be.
Start podcast
Debatable.
game show where the
Just
previous
wait.
week's winner reads part of a Wikipedia page for an unknown game, and we, the contestants, must guess the game. A point is awarded for each correct guess, and the round ends after one person scores 2 points and bags himself the round. Currently in the lead, we have Brody on 17, James just behind on 16, myself and Kieran tied in third with 14 points each, Shannon in third with 13, Harry on 1 point, James W. nil point. As last week's winner, Kieran, is in the hosting chair today.
I feel like these are going to be real easy because I forgot that I was doing this and I had to game generator mix this at the last second. But
that works.
Let's do it. The game is a graphic adventure played from a 2.5D perspective with 3-dimensional characters navigating 2-dimensional environments. The player controls Alex, a teenager visiting a local island with a Shannon.
Ewan.
Is it Alex?
I'm buzzing in, Shannon.
Is it Alex the
No,
kid?
it's not.
It's Alex Kid.
I was next, wasn't I?
Alex Kid.
I buzzed in with Shannon. Fuck.
I think
I'm
it's
sorry.
Brady. Yeah,
I'm in the queue.
I'm gonna say Oxenfree.
it is Oxenfree. Well done.
Wow.
Was that your guess as well, Ewan?
It was, yeah.
Ugh.
So just me with Alex the kid.
Is it even called Alex the Kid?
No, it's not.
No.
Kid's his last name. Maybe that is his middle name. I don't know.
That's sad. That's woeful.
Shannon the Grixty.
Look, as
Give me half a point.
I've been there, Shannon, so I feel for you.
All right.
I keep it fun.
The game is an action-adventure game with hack-and-slash elements. It's a third-person single-player video game. As with previous installments, the player controls the character from a fixed camera perspective in combo-based combat, platforming, and puzzles. The player must also climb walls and ladders, jump across chasms, and swing on ropes to proceed through the game. The puzzles included varying difficulty. Some puzzles only require objects to be placed in a specific position, while some require timing and precision, such as a puzzle with mechanics similar to Guitar Hero. In addition to, this will give it away, in addition to finding Gorgon eyes and phoenix feathers of the... Brody.
I don't know which one.
That's the kicker.
God of War 3.
Oh, it is God of War 3.
Oh,
That's a clean sweep, baby.
clean sweep, Brody. Holy moly. That's knocking you up to 20 points.
The gap widens.
Wow.
Wow.
Jeez.
Look at my gap.
Gaping.
Look at my gaping gap.
Wow.
James.
That's fun.
James is rattled.
Fixed camera.
Back me up.
I was thinking it was a God of War game, and then the fixed camera perspective threw me. So you could. Emma, do I know what a fixed camera perspective is?
Evidently
Maybe
not.
this is something I've.
It's not a free camera. You can't control
So
it.
you
can't
can't
control
you can't
it.
push it with the right stick. No,
Correct.
okay, that's what. Okay, mine sounding with fixed position camera that is correct, but I just thought God of War always had a free moving on.
What's happening?
That's a weird way to
Move
say
on.
congratulations, Brody.
He's fishing for a point.
No, I'm not. I was
Learning
just.
what a fixed camera angle.
I think
I
you've
was just saying
misrepresented
where I
the
got
game. I want to
thrown.
redo.
I learned something new about God of War 3 is what I'm saying. With that, let's bring an end to what was this week's episode of the Press Start podcast. Subscribe to us on Listener or the podcast service of your choice. Follow us at press.au and visit the site at pressstart.com.au. We've been joined today by Shannon.
Yes, you can follow me at Shannon Grixty.
Also joining us today was James.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at JamesATJMZ.
Bagging the points, stretching out his lead, it was Brody.
Thanks. You can follow me on most things at Brody_DG.
And last but not least, it was Kieran.
Yeah, HASH_BRAUN on Twitter.
And I've been your host, Ewan Roxburgh. You can follow me on Twitter at Ewan_Roxburgh. I don't know what's going on. It's an insane end to the podcast as it usually is. But thanks again for tuning in. And until next time, happy gaming.
Bye.
Bye.
Alex the Kid.